Hey guys, this is Justin at The Survivor Review. Today we'll be talking about a movie that I've been eagerly anticipating. It's the fifth and final chapter in the classic Phantasm franchise, Phantasm: Ravager. This movie has a really interesting history to it, being that back in 2014, out of the blue they just announced, oh by the way, we shot another Phantasm movie, and here's a trailer. And it was just like, what? Wait, what? When did that happen? It was just so out of nowhere and just so cool to see that happen. It just adds to that really awesome, just independent, do-it-yourself nature of the Phantasm films, where it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, we shot a whole movie. And you're just like, that's amazing, I can't wait to see that. The problem is we had to wait 2 years for that. 2 years of very little updates throughout those years. Like, they barely talked about this movie for those 2 years, to the point where there's multiple times where I'm just like, is this movie even still happening? Like, we haven't heard a single thing about it. But no, it wasn't. It finally came out this year, and I finally saw it. And was it worth the wait? Yes and no. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of disappointed with this movie. I do enjoy it. I do think it's a fun movie, but I feel it's not the concluding chapter that we really needed for this series. Now, I knew this was a low-budget movie, so I wasn't expecting like a big, giant, epic, huge budget final chapter for the series. I knew that wasn't going to happen, and that's not why I'm disappointed in the movie. That has nothing to do with it. I knew this was going to be low budget, I knew this was going to be cheap, that's okay, but I just thought some of the decisions they made, some of the stuff they did with the story, just did not give the right closure for this series that I thought it deserves. So, the plot of this movie, real quick, it follows right off of Phantasm 4, and Reggie has just been on the road for years. You see his clothes are all destroyed, just everything, trying to find Mike. Like, that's his main goal, is to find Mike and get away from the tall man, who is just constantly on his tail. He's constantly being chased down by the spheres and all that stuff. And then while that's going on, we see this alternate universe, where none of the tall man stuff has ever happened, and Reggie is this really old, disheveled man living in a nursing home who just got diagnosed with dementia. And Mike is his friend who just keeps visiting him, you know? Keeps saying like, oh yeah, you keep telling me these stories about this tall man and all that stuff. It's really crazy. So you have that timeline also intercutting with the main timeline of Reggie and his search for Mike. And throughout the movie you get a lot of interesting stuff. You get a lot of fun scenes with spheres, and you get a really interesting third act where it turns out the tall man has really taken over, and it's almost like post-apocalyptic. And Mike is the leader of this group of like survivors, and they find Reggie and they're like trying to stop the tall man. So that's kind of the plot of this movie. It's kind of weird, it's kind of all over the place. There's a lot of elements to this movie that are unique. I like the idea of the two universes going at the same time. That's something we haven't really explored in the Phantasm movies. And I thought it worked well enough in the realm of Phantasm, where it's just like, what the hell's going on? This is all friggin' weird. Although I didn't feel it was as well handled as it could have been. I thought it could have been handled a lot better, but I still thought it was really cool. And I like that idea. Reggie is the main character of this movie, and he carries the entire film, and he's as great as ever. It's a ton of fun. Just seeing another Reggie adventure. Like, you see him picking up a hot chick again, like typical Reggie stuff, and him trying to sleep with her. Just typical Reggie stuff. There's a lot of fun. He had some good lines in the movie, too. There's a great scene where he gets his car back, and I thought that scene was really funny. So I enjoyed him. I enjoyed seeing the entire cast again. It's just a ton of fun seeing these guys again. And, you know, it was really nice seeing the late Angus Scrimm as the tall man. And in his final film, his final performance as the tall man. It was really nice seeing him. He doesn't get a whole lot to do, which I heard was due to his declining health at the time. So he doesn't do a whole lot, he's not in the movie a whole lot, but when he is, it's really cool. And he has two great scenes where he's talking about Reggie, and he just gives these great speeches. And those scenes are just like classic tall man, I love those scenes. Those scenes were the best.
You're not even real. You're my bad dream.
So it was really nice seeing him in the film, seeing just this entire cast get back together and seeing them older now. I like that. You could tell this movie is a labor of love from the filmmakers. They clearly love the fans, they clearly love the series, and are just having a blast telling this final chapter to the series, and that shows on screen. You know, nobody's really phoning it in. Nobody's just like, okay, let's just do this next Phantasm movie. So I really like that. There's energy to it, which is what the fourth film was severely lacking. That film had like no energy to it. This one has no energy, and it's a lot of fun when it can be. But this movie does have its fair share of problems. Like I said, it is low budget and cheap, and yeah, so I was expecting like, you know, some cheap CGI effects here and there, and it not looking as polished as most movies. But this movie looks a lot cheaper than I thought it would. You could tell the movie was shot on like a cheaper like digital camera, And the effects in this film, there's a lot of effects in this movie, and it has that quality of, like, you know those effects you see on YouTube videos where they do a lot of green screen, a lot of CGI, and yeah, from a normal standpoint, it looks cheap as hell, but from like a YouTube video standpoint, you're like, damn, that looks really good for like these people who did this in their backyard. That's what this movie looks like a lot of the times. Yeah, there's good effects here and there. Not as much practical effects. There's a lot of practical effects when the spheres latch onto people and the blood spurts out, you know, in classic Phantasm fashion. That stuff is all practical and that's fine. But there's a lot of CGI in this movie that doesn't work, and the movie just comes off as very cheap. But you know what? For the most part, I can get past that. Those aren't my major flaws with the film. My major flaws with the movie is that this movie doesn't add anything new to the mythology. Now again, I don't want everything explained. I don't want to know everything. I don't want to know exactly what the tall man's doing. I don't want to know all of that. But I felt it just needed something there, something extra to expand the story, and this movie really didn't do that. Of course, you get to the ending where, like, tall man has taken over and, like, it's post-apocalyptic and all that stuff. That was different. That was new and unique. But no real mythology explored, like, why, again, I want to know why the tall man is going after Mike and what's the big deal with that, but you don't get any of that. And with Reggie being the main character, Mike gets very sidelined in this film. And I wanted more Mike, I wanted more of his story. Yeah, it's fun seeing Reggie again, and that was entertaining, but you needed more of that. The fact that we didn't get any of that in this movie was very disappointing. And then the one thing I want to see how they handled with this movie the most is closure. Like, how do they handle the final chapter of this series and actually make it feel final? Well, answer is, they kind of don't. There's some closure, and then there's kind of not. Because there's elements to it that do leave it open for a possible sequel. And, you know, I kind of wanted that open ending a little bit. I didn't want everything to be completely final, because that would not be in the Phantasm way, to have everything just tied up with a neat bow and everything, because Phantasm is not supposed to make sense. Phantasm is supposed to be weird. It's supposed to be kind of like endless, like an endless nightmare. So I'm okay with it not being totally final, but the ending of this movie almost kind of sets it up for another one. So I didn't really like that. But that being said, the final scene of this movie is very heartfelt and very well done and kind of emotional, actually. Just seeing these characters, Mike, Jody, and Reggie, for the last time in this one scene was kind of emotional. I was like, oh, this is last time we're going to see these guys. And I thought that scene worked really well. I really liked that. Like, I felt more emotionally invested in that scene than I thought I would. So I really liked that. That was really well done. But despite this movie's flaws with, like, a lack of good budget or a lack of real good closure, I still found it entertaining, and I did have fun while watching it. I did think it was more entertaining than Phantasm 4, in that I was having more fun watching this movie than Phantasm 4. It was just a nice return to the series. Again, not the big epic conclusion it should have been, but I don't think it's as awful as people are making it out to be, or as great as some people are making it out to be. I'm kind of just right in the middle there. It's just like, it was alright, disappointing in aspects, but entertaining in others. It does make some nice callbacks to the original films. You do get a lot of good sphere action. You do get to see the lady in lavender again, which is really nice. She has a little cameo there. You also do get a fun cameo by a character from one of the previous films, though it's not placed in the right part. It should have been a bigger part of the movie than where it is in the actual film. But it was nice seeing that character again. It was surprising. I was not expecting it. I was like, oh, sick. So I liked that. Overall, just a decent conclusion to the series. I guess I'll go with that. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Some aspects really annoy me with, again, the lack of proper closure, the lack of mythology expansion. But there are elements I do like. I do enjoy the final scene. I thought it was very bittersweet and a very good send-off to the characters. Very nice send-off to the characters. And there's a lot of fun sphere action. Reggie's funny. He has some good lines. And just an entertaining movie, but not up to par with some of the previous installments of the series. So, out of 10, I'm kind of thinking between 6.5 or 7. But I'm thinking I'm going to round it up to 7. Just to be generous for the movie, because yeah, it did disappoint me in aspects, but I still was entertained, and it was a fun time seeing these characters again. So I'm going to give it a solid 7, despite it not being nearly as good as it should have been. So that's Phantasm Ravager. Yeah, not the amazing final film that I really wanted it to be, but a nice, fun, sweet send-off to the series that is, in my opinion, one of the best horror franchises out there. It's one of the most unique and different. I love just the do-it-yourself nature to it, the independent feel these movies have, where they just can go out there as much as they want, and it's okay because they're just making it for the fans. And I really enjoy that feel of the series. I love that this is a franchise about these core characters, and it sticks with them for the entire series. You get to see them grow as every movie progresses. From the 70s all the way until 2016. I think it's really unique. Just a great horror franchise. It's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the genre. Just one of the best ones out there in my personal opinion. And yeah, that concludes my look at all the Phantasm movies, which I had a lot of fun doing those. And that's about it for now. So until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.